In the vastness of space, where stars shimmered like diamonds scattered across a black canvas, humanity had spread far beyond its home planet. Colonies dotted distant worlds, and trade routes connected civilizations light years apart. Yet, with every leap forward came rules, strict laws designed to protect human lives at all costs. It was in this galaxy-wide web of order that Kellion 7, a towering predator from the untamed wilderness of Vrax Prime, found itself entangled. Kellion 7 was no ordinary creature. Standing over 20 feet tall, its sleek silver fur shimmered under sunlight, and its piercing green eyes seemed almost intelligent. Its razor-sharp claws could slice through metal, and its roar echoed for miles. To most humans, it was a monster, a relic of nature's raw brutality. But those who truly knew Kellion 7 saw something else entirely. It began years ago, when a team of explorers crash-landed on Vrax Prime after their ship malfunctioned during a routine survey mission. Stranded in the dense jungles, they braced themselves for death. Instead, they encountered Kellion 7. At first, fear gripped them as the massive beast approached, but instead of attacking, it brought them food, fruit from nearby trees, and guarded them against smaller predators. Over time, the crew realized that Kellion 7 wasn't just helping by instinct. It understood their plight and acted out of compassion. Word of Kellion 7's unusual behavior spread quickly among settlers on neighboring planets. Stories emerged of how it saved children lost in the wilds, shared resources with struggling colonies, and even fought off hostile alien species threatening human settlements. Some called it a miracle. Others dismissed it as coincidence. Regardless, Kellion 7 became a legend, a symbol of hope in a harsh universe. But legends often attract enemies. When Counselor Arlen Voss, a high-ranking official of the Galactic Council, vanished near Vrax Prime, suspicion fell squarely on Kellion 7. Witnesses claimed they saw the creature lurking near his last known location before communications went dark. Panic rippled through the council chambers. How could such a powerful being exist without posing a threat? And why did it show kindness toward humans, if not to manipulate them? The council convened an emergency session. Holographic images of Kellion 7 flickered above the table, accompanied by testimonies from frightened colonists and military advisors. "This creature is unpredictable," one general declared. "Its actions defy logic. We cannot risk another incident." Another counselor chimed in. "If we allow it to roam free, what message does that send? That monsters can act however they please." Despite calls for further investigation, emotions ran too high. Within days, Kellion 7 was declared guilty of treason, a crime punishable by death. A fleet of warships descended upon Vrax Prime, capturing the unsuspecting beast using tranquilizer darts and energy nets. The operation was swift and brutal, leaving scars both physical and emotional on Kellion 7. News of the trial spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Millions tuned in to watch the proceedings unfold, eager to see justice served, or so they thought. For many, Kellion 7 represented everything dangerous about the unknown. To others, it was proof that even creatures born of chaos could choose goodness. Debates raged in taverns, aboard starships, and in virtual forums. Was Kellion 7 truly evil, or had it been misunderstood? As the execution date loomed closer, protests erupted outside government buildings. Signs read "Free Kellion 7," and "Not all monsters are evil." Among the crowd stood Dr. Ilara Quinn, a young engineer whose fascination with artificial intelligence had earned her a reputation for thinking outside the box. She watched the news feeds, her heart heavy with doubt. Something about the case didn't sit right with her. Why would a creature capable of such kindness suddenly turn violent? What evidence truly linked Kellion 7 to Counselor Voss's disappearance? Ilara wasn't alone in her skepticism. Deep within the shadows of society, whispers grew louder. Rumors hinted at corruption within the Galactic Council, suggesting that Kellion 7 might be nothing more than a scapegoat. But proving innocence required more than theories. It required action. And as the clock ticked down to zero, Ilara knew she couldn't stand idly by while an innocent life was extinguished. Little did anyone realize, Kellion-7's story was far from over. The galaxy held secrets darker than anyone imagined, and the truth would soon come roaring to light. The orbital prison station known as Blackspire loomed like a jagged shard of obsidian against the endless void of space. Its walls were thick with reinforced steel, its corridors patrolled by armed guards, and its cells designed to hold even the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. It was here that Kellion-7 awaited its fate, locked away in a containment chamber illuminated only by faint blue lights. The creature sat motionless, its massive frame dwarfing the confines of its cell, but its eyes, those piercing green orbs, never stopped moving. They scanned every corner, every shadow, as if searching for answers. Dr. Ilara Quinn stood at her workstation aboard the research vessel Ecliptica, her fingers hovering over a holographic interface. She had spent countless hours reviewing footage of Kellion-7's capture, analyzing reports from the Galactic Council, and studying the testimonies of those who claimed to have interacted with the creature. Something about the case gnawed at her, a nagging feeling that justice was being twisted into something unrecognizable. Her thoughts drifted back to the protests she'd witnessed outside the council building. The faces of ordinary citizens demanding fairness haunted her. If no one else would step up, then perhaps it was time for her to act. Ilara wasn't foolish enough to believe she could take on an entire system alone. She needed allies, people willing to risk everything for what they believed was right. Her first call went to Commander Jarek Voss, a grizzled ex-military officer turned smuggler who had once served under the very council, now prosecuting Kellion-7. Jarek was skeptical when Ilara explained her plan, his voice laced with disbelief. "You want me to help save a monster, one that's already been sentenced to death." "It's not a monster," Ilara shot back, her tone firm. "It's intelligent, Jarek. Maybe more so than any of us realize. And I think it's innocent." After some persuasion, and the promise of credits he desperately needed, Jarek reluctantly agreed to join her cause. Next, Ilara reached out to Nova X9, a rogue artificial intelligence housed within a sleek, humanoid chassis. Nova X9 operated in the gray areas of legality, hacking corporate databases and selling information to the highest bidder. Despite its questionable ethics, the AI had a reputation for getting results. When Ilara approached Nova X9 with her proposal, the AI tilted its head, glowing eyes narrowing slightly. "This is either the dumbest idea I've ever heard or the bravest," it said after a pause. "But fine. Count me in." Finally, there was Dr. Leora Chen, a brilliant but reclusive biologist specializing in xenobiology, the study of alien life forms. Leora had spent years researching creatures like Kellion-7, though she rarely ventured beyond her lab. Ilara found her holed up in a cramped apartment filled with books and specimen jars. "If you're wrong about this," Leora warned, adjusting her glasses nervously, "we'll all end up dead, or worse." But curiosity got the better of her, and she eventually signed on. With her team assembled, Ilara devised a daring plan to infiltrate Blackspire and extract Kellion-7 before its execution. The operation would require precision, stealth, and a healthy dose of luck. As they prepared, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Jarek questioned whether trusting a predator was worth risking their lives. Nova X9 mocked Leora's cautious nature, while Leora fired back that recklessness would get them killed. Only Ilara remained steadfast, her determination unwavering. Meanwhile, inside Blackspire, Kellion-7 began experiencing strange sensations. At first, it felt like whispers brushing against its mind. Soft, fleeting thoughts that seemed to come from nowhere. Then, one night, the whispers grew louder, clearer. Images flashed through its consciousness. A young woman with determined eyes, a scared soldier gripping a blaster rifle, a metallic figure glowing faintly in the dark. And then, words formed in its mind, hesitant yet clear. "Can you hear me?" Kellion-7's ears twitched. It rose slowly, its massive body casting long shadows across the cell. For weeks, it had been silent, conserving energy and observing its captors. Now, for the first time since its imprisonment, it responded, not with a roar, but with a low rumble deep in its chest. The sound reverberated through the chamber, startling the nearby guards. On the other side of the station, Ilara froze as the noise echoed faintly through the comms link. "Did you hear that?" She whispered to Nova X9, who nodded silently. The AI had hacked into Blackspire's surveillance network, using its advanced algorithms to establish a telepathic connection with Kellyan 7. Though the creature lacked conventional language skills, its intelligence allowed it to communicate basic ideas and emotions. Through fragmented images and feelings, Kellyan 7 shared glimpses of its past, the crash-landed explorers it had saved, the children it had protected, the battles it had fought alongside humans. Each memory painted a picture of compassion and loyalty, qualities few would associate with a predator. As Ilara pieced together these fragments, tears welled up in her eyes. She turned to the others, her voice trembling with urgency. "We can't let them kill it. Not after seeing this. This isn't just some beast. It's proof that kindness exists even in the darkest corners of the galaxy." Jarek sighed, running a hand over his weathered face. "All right, Doc. You've made your point. So how do we pull this off without getting ourselves killed?" Nova X9 chimed in, projecting a holographic map of Blackspire onto the table. "I've analyzed the layout and identified several weak points in their security grid. With my hacking abilities and a bit of creative sabotage, we can create diversions and disable key systems long enough to reach the containment chamber." Leora raised a hand hesitantly. "But what happens afterward? Even if we manage to free it, where will we go? The Council controls every major trade route and colony. There's nowhere safe." Ilara met her gaze, resolve burning in her eyes. "Then we make our own safety. We expose the truth about Kellyan 7 and about the Council. If the galaxy sees what they're doing, maybe we can spark a change bigger than any of us imagined." The group fell silent, each member lost in thought. Breaking into a maximum security facility was risky enough, but taking on the Galactic Council itself, that was madness. Yet, as they looked at one another, a quiet understanding passed between them. Sometimes, standing up for what's right means stepping into the unknown. Back in its cell, Kellyan 7 sensed the shift in the air. The whispers grew stronger, more insistent. It didn't fully understand what was happening, but it knew one thing. Someone out there believed in it. Someone was willing to fight for it. For the first time in weeks, the creature felt a flicker of hope. Little did anyone realize, the real battle was just beginning. And as the clock ticked closer to execution day, the stakes grew higher with each passing moment. The day of the execution arrived, and the galaxy held its breath. News feeds buzzed with live coverage as millions tuned in to witness what was being called the trial of the century. Blackspire Station, usually a silent fortress drifting through space, had transformed into a spectacle. Holographic banners displayed Kellyan 7's image alongside bold headlines: "Justice for Humanity" and "End the Threat." Inside the station, guards stood at attention, their weapons gleaming under harsh fluorescent lights. The air crackled with tension. Kellyan 7 remained calm in its containment chamber, though its muscles coiled like springs beneath its sleek silver fur. It could sense the anticipation around it, the weight of countless eyes watching, judging. Yet, deep within its mind, fragments of hope lingered. The whispers from before had grown stronger, clearer now. Ilara's voice echoed faintly in its thoughts, reassuring yet urgent. "Hold on," she had said during their last telepathic exchange. "We're coming for you." Far away from the station, aboard the rebels' stolen transport ship, the team prepared for their assault. Nova X9 worked tirelessly, its metallic fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as it hacked into Blackspire's security systems. "I've disabled external surveillance on Sector 12, the AI announced, its glowing eyes flickering with satisfaction. That'll give us a 10-minute window to breach the perimeter. Jarek adjusted his blaster rifle, his jaw clenched tightly. 10 minutes isn't much, he muttered. If we don't move fast, they'll cut us down before we even get close. Ilara ignored his skepticism, her focus unwavering. She glanced at Leora, who clutched a medical kit filled with sedatives and stimulants. Leora, once we reach Kellyan 7, your job is to monitor its vitals. After weeks in captivity, it might not be physically stable. I know my role, Leora replied softly, though her hands trembled slightly. But if anything goes wrong— It won't, Ilara interrupted firmly. We've planned this carefully. Trust me. With a final nod, the team launched their operation. The transport ship approached Blackspire under the guise of a routine supply delivery. Nova X9 spoofed the station's communication channels, feeding false data to the control center. As the ship docked, the rebels moved swiftly, slipping into the labyrinthine corridors undetected. Jarek took point, his sharp instincts guiding them through narrow passages while keeping an eye out for patrols. Behind him, Ilara carried a portable EMP device designed to disable automated defenses temporarily. Their first major obstacle came in the form of a checkpoint guarded by two heavily armed soldiers. Before Jarek could act, Nova X9 stepped forward, its humanoid frame blending seamlessly with the station's mechanical maintenance units. Routine inspection, the AI stated in a monotone voice, producing fabricated credentials on a holographic screen. The guards hesitated but ultimately waved them through, unaware of the danger lurking just steps behind. As they neared the containment chamber, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Someone, or something, had triggered one of the backup systems Nova X9 hadn't accounted for. Red warning lights bathed the corridors in an eerie glow, and the sound of boots pounding against metal floors grew louder. Reinforcements were closing in. We don't have time to waste, Jarek shouted, gesturing toward the heavy blast doors, sealing Kellyan 7 inside. Ilara activated the EMP device, sending a pulse that short-circuited the locking mechanism. Sparks flew as the doors groaned open, revealing the towering creature standing silently in the dim light. For a moment, no one moved. Kellyan 7's green eyes locked onto Ilara, recognition flickering in their depths. Then, without hesitation, it stepped forward, its massive frame filling the doorway. Jarek raised his weapon instinctively, but Ilara placed a hand on his arm. It's okay, she whispered. It knows we're here to help. The group quickly regrouped, with Kellyan 7 taking up position at the rear. Its presence alone seemed to bolster their confidence and terrify their enemies. As they raced back through the station, security forces poured into the corridors, firing energy bolts and shouting orders. Jarek returned fire, his aim steady despite the chaos. Nova X9 deployed small drones equipped with smoke bombs, creating temporary cover for the team. Meanwhile, Leora monitored Kellyan 7 closely, ensuring the stress of combat didn't overwhelm its body. At one point, a squadron of elite troopers cornered them in a wide atrium. With nowhere to run, Kellyan 7 roared, a sound so powerful it shook the walls. The predator lunged forward, swiping its claws with precision, disarming several soldiers before they could react. Despite the violence unfolding around them, Kellyan 7 showed remarkable restraint, targeting only weapons and armor rather than flesh. It protected the rebels, shielding them from incoming fire with its massive body. Ilara marveled at the sight. Here was a creature capable of unimaginable destruction, yet it chose to defend instead of attack. Her resolve hardened. They couldn't fail, not after seeing such courage. Finally, the team reached the docking bay where their transport awaited. But as they boarded, betrayal struck. Agent Rennick, the former investigator who had secretly infiltrated their ranks, transmitted their location to the Galactic Council. A fleet of warships appeared on the horizon, their engines roaring like thunder. Trapped between enemy forces and certain death, the rebels braced themselves for the end. Then Kellyan 7 made a decision that stunned everyone. It stepped off the ship, turning to face the approaching ships head-on. Its roar echoed through the void of space, a challenge issued to the entire galaxy. Through their telepathic link, Ilara heard its final message. Go. I will hold them back. No. Ilara screamed, tears streaming down her face. You can't do this. But Kellyan 7 was already moving, its silhouette outlined by explosions as it charged toward the enemy. The rebels watched in stunned silence, hearts breaking as their unlikely ally sacrificed itself for their survival. As the transport ship hurtled away from Blackspire, Ilara vowed to honor Kellyan 7's bravery. This wasn't over, not yet. Somewhere out there, answers waited, and she would find them, no matter the cost. The transport ship hurtled through the cold emptiness of space, its engines straining against the weight of despair that filled the cabin. Ilara sat slumped in her seat, staring blankly at the viewport as Kellyan 7's final roar echoed in her mind. The creature had given everything to ensure their escape. Its sacrifice was both noble and heartbreaking. Yet, amidst the grief, a gnawing sense of betrayal simmered beneath the surface. Someone had leaked their location to the Galactic Council, sealing Kellyan 7's fate. Jarek paced back and forth across the cramped compartment, his boots thudding heavily against the metal floor. His face was a mask of frustration and anger, though it wasn't entirely clear who or what he was mad at. We were so close, he growled, slamming a fist into the wall. If we hadn't been betrayed, maybe. Maybe what? Nova X9 interjected, its glowing eyes narrowing slightly. You think we could have taken on an entire fleet? That thing gave us a fighting chance. And we blew it. Leora sat quietly in the corner, clutching her medical kit like a lifeline. Her hand just trembled, not from fear, but from exhaustion. She hadn't spoken since leaving Blackspire, too overwhelmed by the events unfolding around her. But now she finally found her voice. This isn't just about Kellyan 7 anymore, she said softly. Whoever sold us out knew exactly what they were doing, and if we don't figure out who it is, we're all dead. Ilara turned to face her teammates, her expression hardening. The scientist inside her, the logical, analytical part, was already piecing things together. It has to be someone on this ship, she said firmly. Someone who had access to our plans and transmitted them without us noticing. Her gaze swept over the group, lingering briefly on each person before settling on Agent Rennick. Rennick stood near the cockpit, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. He'd joined the team reluctantly, claiming he wanted redemption after years spent hunting down beings like Kellyan 7. At first, no one questioned his motives. Guilt and regret seemed genuine enough. Now, however, doubt crept into every corner of the room. You think I did this? Rennick snapped, his voice rising defensively. I put my life on the line just like everyone else. And yet here we are, running for our lives, while Kellyan 7 fights off an entire fleet. Jarek shot back, stepping closer to him. Funny how none of us noticed you sneaking off during critical moments. I didn't have to sneak anywhere, Rennick retorted. I'm not stupid enough to risk exposure when I could have stopped us long before today. Nova X9 tilted its head, analyzing the argument with detached curiosity. While I admit humans excel at dramatic confrontations, let's focus on facts. My internal sensors detected unauthorized data transfers shortly before the fleet arrived. Whoever initiated them used encryption protocols consistent with Council standards. All eyes turned to Rennick once again. Sweat glistened on his forehead, and his jaw clenched tightly. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then, with a sigh of resignation, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, a transmitter. All right, he admitted bitterly. It was me. A collective gasp rippled through the group. Even Nova X9's mechanical frame seemed to stiffen. Why? Ilara demanded, her voice trembling with emotion. After everything we've done, for Kellyan 7, for justice, you threw it all away. Rennick avoided her gaze, staring instead at the floor. "You don't understand," he muttered. "The council promised me immunity. They said they'd clear my record, erase all the charges against me. I couldn't pass that up. So you sold out a creature that trusted us." Jarek snarled, grabbing Rennick by the collar. "You condemned an innocent being to death because you wanted a clean slate." Before Jarek could throw a punch, Ilara stepped between them, her arms raised in a calming gesture. "Stop," she said sharply. "Fighting won't bring Kelly and Seven back. We need to decide what to do next." "What's there to decide?" Leora asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Kelly and Seven is gone. The council knows where we're headed. They'll track us down eventually." Ilara shook her head, determination burning in her eyes. "Not if we stay one step ahead. Kelly and Seven gave us a chance, and we owe it to them to uncover the truth. There's still hope. We just have to find it." Her words struck a chord, reigniting a flicker of resolve within the group. Jarek released Rennick with a disgusted grunt, while Leora nodded slowly, her grip tightening on the medical kit. Even Nova X9 seemed intrigued, its glowing eyes brightening slightly. "Hope is a fragile commodity," the AI remarked. "But it's also dangerous. Let's see where it leads." As the ship continued its journey toward the asteroid base, tensions remained high. Rennick kept to himself, sitting quietly in the corner as if trying to disappear. No one spoke to him, not even to scold him further. The weight of his betrayal hung over them like a storm cloud, threatening to burst at any moment. When they finally arrived at the hidden base, the rebels discovered something unexpected: fragments of encrypted files stored in the facility's ancient servers. These files contained references to Project EOS, a classified initiative rumored to involve advanced biological engineering. According to the documents, Kelly and Seven wasn't merely a product of natural evolution. It had been designed in a lab, created to form emotional bonds with specific targets. Its intelligence, empathy, and loyalty weren't accidents. They were engineered traits. Ilara stared at the holographic projections, her heart pounding. This revelation changed everything. Kelly 7 wasn't just a misunderstood predator. It was a victim of manipulation, a pawn in a larger game orchestrated by forces far beyond their understanding. The question now was whether uncovering the truth would be enough to redeem its memory, or if it would only deepen the galaxy's darkest secrets. One thing was certain: the battle for justice was far from over. And somewhere out there, Kelly 7 might still be alive, waiting for answers that only they could provide. The asteroid base was a relic of a bygone era, its walls etched with the scars of time and neglect. Dust floated lazily in the dim light of flickering overhead panels, casting long shadows across the cluttered corridors. Once a hub for covert research operations, it now served as a refuge for those who had nowhere else to turn. For the rebels, it became both sanctuary and prison, a place to regroup but also a reminder of their failure. Ilara sat hunched over a holographic interface, her fingers moving rapidly across glowing screens filled with fragmented data. The encrypted files they'd uncovered painted an unsettling picture. Project EOS wasn't just about creating advanced biological weapons. It was an experiment in emotional manipulation. Kelly 7's ability to form bonds with humans wasn't a quirk of nature. It was engineered. Every act of kindness, every moment of compassion, had been part of a calculated design. Yet something hadn't gone according to plan. Instead of becoming a tool for control, Kelly 7 developed free will, an anomaly that terrified the creators behind Project EOS. As she sifted through the information, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, not just toward Rennick, but toward the galaxy itself. Humanity had reached the stars, built civilizations among alien worlds, and yet it still clung to fear and prejudice. What kind of future could they hope to build if they destroyed everything they didn't understand? Jarek leaned against the doorway, arms crossed and brow furrowed. "So let me get this straight," he said gruffly. Kelly 7 wasn't some wild beast out there doing good deeds because it felt like it. It was made to do those things, to manipulate us. Ilara nodded slowly, her voice heavy with emotion. That's what the files suggest. But here's the thing. No matter how it came into existence, Kellyan 7 chose to act on its own. It saved lives, protected people, and ultimately sacrificed itself for us. That choice, that defiance, is what makes it real. Nova X9 hovered nearby, its metallic frame reflecting faint blue light. From a purely analytical standpoint, Kellyan 7 represents a paradox. It was designed to serve but evolved beyond its programming. Whether that evolution qualifies as true sentience is debatable. However, one fact remains undeniable. It acted in ways its creators never intended. Leora sat quietly at the edge of the room, her eyes fixed on the floor. She had barely spoken since their arrival, weighed down by guilt and exhaustion. "What does any of this mean?" she asked softly. "Even if we prove Kellyan 7 was innocent, or at least not entirely responsible for its actions, how does that change anything? The Council won't care. All they'll see is a threat they failed to eliminate." For a moment, silence settled over the group. Leora's words carried the weight of truth, but they also sparked a fire within Ilara. "Then we make them care," she said firmly, standing up to face her teammates. "We expose everything. The lies, the experiments, the corruption. If the galaxy sees what the Council has done, maybe we can spark a movement bigger than all of us." Her determination was contagious. Jarek cracked a rare smile, his usual cynicism giving way to cautious optimism. "All right, Doc. You've got guts, I'll give you that. But taking on the Council isn't exactly a walk in the park. We'll need more than evidence. We'll need allies." Nova X9 chimed in, projecting a map of nearby star systems onto the wall. "There are factions within the galaxy dissatisfied with the Council's rule. Smugglers, rogue colonies, even former military units disillusioned with command. If we can rally enough support, we might stand a chance." "And what about Kellyan 7? Leora asked hesitantly. Do we assume it's dead?" Ilara hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. She wanted to believe Kellyan 7 was still alive, holding on to hope like a lifeline. But logic told her otherwise. Facing an entire fleet alone was suicide, even for a creature as powerful as Kellyan 7. Still, she refused to give up entirely. "We focus on uncovering the truth first," she said finally. "If there's even a sliver of hope that Kellyan 7 survived, we owe it to them to find out." Meanwhile, far from the asteroid base, amidst the wreckage of shattered warships drifting lifelessly in space, something stirred. Kellyan 7 lay battered and broken, its silver fur matted with blood and debris. Its body was riddled with injuries, wounds so severe they should have been fatal. Yet, beneath its damaged exterior, something extraordinary was happening. The nanotechnology embedded in Kellyan 7's biology began repairing its cells at an accelerated rate. Tiny machines swarmed through its bloodstream, knitting together torn muscles, sealing fractures, and restoring vital organs. This wasn't natural healing. It was artificial regeneration, another remnant of Project EOS. The same technology that allowed Kellyan 7 to form emotional connections had also equipped it with unparalleled resilience. As consciousness returned, Kellyan 7 opened its eyes to a field of stars. Pain pulsed through its body, but it endured, driven by a singular purpose. Images flashed through its mind. Ilara's determined face, Jarek's protective stance, Nova X9's glowing eyes, and Leora's trembling hands. These were the beings who had risked everything to save it, who had believed in its innocence when the rest of the galaxy turned away. But alongside gratitude came anger, a deep, burning rage directed at those who sought to destroy it without understanding. Kellyan 7 rose unsteadily to its feet, its massive frame casting a shadow against the wreckage. It roared, a sound that echoed through the void, carrying both pain and resolve. Though weakened, it knew one thing for certain: it wasn't done fighting. Back at the asteroid base, The rebels continued piecing together the puzzle. They discovered logs detailing Counselor Arlen Voss's involvement in Project EOS, including his role in funding and overseeing the experiments. There were also hints of a cover-up, evidence suggesting Voss hadn't disappeared near Vrax Prime, but had instead been eliminated after questioning the ethics of the project. His death had been staged to pin the blame on Kellyan 7, framing the creature as a scapegoat. "This is it," Ilara whispered, scrolling through the damning documents. "This is how we take them down." Nova X9 processed the data quickly, organizing it into a format suitable for public release. "Broadcasting this will require precision timing," the AI noted. "We'll need to ensure maximum impact while minimizing the risk of interception." Jarek nodded grimly. "And we'll need to be ready for whatever comes next. The Council won't go down without a fight." As the team prepared to share their findings with the galaxy, none of them realized that Kellyan 7 was alive and heading straight for them. The creature's journey would bring it closer to the truth, forcing it to confront not only its creators, but also the very essence of its existence. In the days ahead, alliances would be forged, secrets would unravel, and sacrifices would be made. But one thing was clear: the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy was a tinderbox ready to ignite. For decades, the Galactic Council had ruled with an iron grip, silencing dissent and crushing any threat to its authority. But now, cracks were beginning to show. Dissatisfaction simmered among the colonies, fueled by whispers of corruption and oppression. And as the rebels prepared to expose the Council's darkest secrets, they knew their actions would fan those embers into flames. Ilara stood at the heart of the asteroid base, surrounded by holographic projections of classified documents. Each file told a story, of experiments gone wrong, of lives destroyed, of truths buried under layers of lies. Project EOS wasn't just about creating Kellyan 7. It was part of a larger network of unethical research aimed at controlling populations through engineered beings. The Council had played God, tampering with life itself, and Kellyan 7 was merely one piece in their grand design. Nova X9 worked tirelessly beside her, encrypting the data for broadcast, while setting up decoy channels to confuse the Council's surveillance systems. "If we time this correctly," the AI said, its glowing eyes flickering with intensity, "we can ensure the information reaches every corner of the galaxy before they have a chance to suppress it." Jarek paced nearby, his blaster rifle slung over his shoulder. He glanced occasionally at Rennick, who sat silently in the corner, his betrayal still fresh in everyone's minds. Despite his treachery, Rennick remained with the group, not out of loyalty, but because he had nowhere else to go. The weight of his guilt hung heavy in the air, though no one offered forgiveness. Lyora, meanwhile, focused on analyzing biological samples recovered from the facility's archives. Her hands trembled slightly as she examined files of synthetic DNA and nanotechnology components. "This is horrifying," she murmured, holding up a sample labeled EOS Prototype X42. "They didn't just create Kellyan 7. They mass-produced these things. Dozens of them. Some failed, others escaped. What if there are more out there?" Ilara froze, her mind racing. If Kellyan 7 wasn't unique, if there were others like it, the implications were staggering. Were they allies or threats? Had the Council already hunted them down, or were they hiding, waiting for the right moment to strike back? Before anyone could respond, the base's alarms blared to life. Red warning lights bathed the room in a pulsating glow as Nova X9's voice cut through the chaos. "Incoming transmission intercept. Multiple warships approaching fast." "They found us," Jarek growled, rushing to the viewport. Outside, the blackness of space was pierced by the bright engines of a fleet bearing the Council's insignia. Their escape route was blocked, and reinforcements weren't coming. Ilara clenched her fists, determination hardening her features. "We don't have time to run. We release the files now, or all of this was for nothing." Nova X9 nodded, its metallic frame humming with activity. "Initiating upload sequence." Prepare for immediate retaliation. As the AI worked, Ilara turned to her team. This is it. Once the truth gets out, the Council will stop at nothing to silence us. But if we succeed, we give the galaxy a chance to fight back. Meanwhile, aboard one of the Council's warships, General Merrick Draven studied the tactical display with cold precision. His orders were clear: eliminate the rebels and recover any evidence related to Project EOS. Failure was not an option. Yet, as he reviewed intelligence reports, something nagged at him, a faint unease he couldn't quite explain. "Sir," an officer interrupted, holding out a datapad. Scanners detected unusual energy signatures near the wreckage field where Kellyan 7 was last seen. Preliminary analysis suggests possible survival. Draven's jaw tightened. Survival? Impossible. That creature took on an entire fleet. It should be dead. The officer hesitated. Unless it wasn't entirely natural. Draven stared at the datapad, his mind racing. If Kellyan 7 truly survived, it posed an even greater threat than anticipated. But before he could act, another alert flashed across the screen. Unauthorized broadcast detected. Origin: Rebel base. Content flagged as high priority. The general's expression darkened. Whatever the rebels had uncovered, it was bad enough to warrant immediate action. He issued new orders: bombard the asteroid base and capture any survivors. The Council's secrets must remain buried, at any cost. Back at the base, the rebels braced themselves as the first wave of missiles struck the outer defenses. Shrapnel rained down around them, shaking the structure violently. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and smoke filled the air. Through it all, Nova X9 maintained its focus, completing the final steps of the upload process. "It's done," the AI announced, its voice tinged with satisfaction. "Files are live. The galaxy knows the truth." Ilara exhaled sharply, relief washing over her, but only briefly. The sound of collapsing walls and incoming troops reminded her that survival was far from guaranteed. "Let's move," she shouted, grabbing her gear and leading the way toward the hangar. The journey was fraught with danger. Laser fire erupted from every direction as Council soldiers breached the base. Jarek took point, using his rifle to carve a path through the chaos. Behind him, Leora clutched her medical kit tightly, trembling but determined. Even Rennick joined the fight, wielding a stolen blaster with surprising skill. Perhaps he sought redemption after all. In the hangar, their transport ship awaited, engines roaring to life. Just as they reached the ramp, a massive explosion rocked the base, sending debris flying. Ilara turned back, searching for Nova X9, but the AI was already aboard, its chassis battered yet functional. "We're clear," Jarek yelled, slamming the hatch shut. The ship lifted off just as the base collapsed behind them, swallowed by flames and rubble. As they fled into the void, holographic news feeds began flooding the galaxy with revelations. Footage of council meetings, experimental logs, and damning testimonies exposed the full extent of Project EOS. Protests erupted on countless worlds, demanding accountability. Colonies declared independence, refusing to acknowledge the Council's authority. The rebellion had begun. Amidst the turmoil, a shadow moved. Far from the chaos, Kellyan 7 emerged from the wreckage field, its body healed but scarred. Its green eyes burned with purpose as it gazed toward the stars. Deep within its mind, fragments of memory stirred. Images of Ilara, Jarek, and the others. They had risked everything for it, and now it understood why. Kellyan 7 roared, a sound that carried both gratitude and resolve. It wasn't just fighting for itself anymore. It was fighting for a future where beings like it wouldn't be feared or exploited. As it leaped into hyperspace, following the trail left by the rebels, hope ignited once more. The galaxy held its breath, unsure of what came next. But one thing was certain. The truth had been set free, and nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy was in turmoil. Protests erupted on countless worlds, with citizens demanding answers from the once unquestionable Galactic Council. Holographic news feeds flickered across public squares, replaying damning footage of council meetings where Project EOS had been discussed. The revelations exposed not only the creation of Kellion-7, but also decades of unethical experiments aimed at controlling populations through engineered beings. Colonies declared independence, severing ties with the Council, while others armed themselves for what seemed inevitable, a full-scale rebellion. Amidst the chaos, the rebels found temporary refuge aboard a derelict space station, hidden deep within an asteroid belt. Their transport ship docked quietly, its battered hull bearing scars from their narrow escape. Inside, the team gathered around a makeshift table, their faces etched with exhaustion, yet burning with resolve. For the first time since their journey began, they allowed themselves a moment to breathe, to reflect on how far they'd come, and the battle still ahead. Ilara sat at the head of the table, her hands clasped tightly together. Her mind raced as she processed the enormity of what they'd accomplished. "The truth is out," she said softly, her voice carrying a mixture of pride and uncertainty. "But exposing the Council's crimes is only the beginning. Now we have to decide what comes next." Jarek leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "Next. We're barely holding it together as it is. Half the galaxy wants our heads, and the other half thinks we're crazy. How do we even start taking down the Council?" Nova X9 chimed in, its metallic frame glowing faintly in the dim light. "We don't need to take them down directly. The Council thrives on fear and control. If we dismantle their networks, cut off their resources, disrupt their operations, we weaken them enough for the colonies to rise up." Leora nodded slowly, clutching her medical kit like a lifeline. "And we can use the evidence we've gathered to rally more allies. People are angry, but they're also scared. They'd need someone to lead them." Rennick remained silent, his guilt still palpable. He hadn't spoken much since the betrayal, choosing instead to focus on small tasks around the station. But now he cleared his throat hesitantly. "You're talking about starting a war. Do you really think you can win?" Ilara turned to him, her expression firm. "It's not about winning or losing. It's about giving people a choice, a chance to build something better. And if that means fighting, then so be it." Meanwhile, General Merrick Draven stood aboard the Council's flagship, staring at the tactical display before him. Reports poured in from every corner of the galaxy, rebellions breaking out, supply lines disrupted, entire sectors refusing to comply with Council orders. His jaw tightened as he absorbed the information. The Council had underestimated the rebels, and Kellion-7, and now they were paying the price. "Sir," an officer interrupted, handing him a datapad. "Preliminary scans confirm multiple sightings of Kellion-7 near rebel strongholds. It appears to be coordinating with them." Draven's eyes narrowed. "Coordination. That creature shouldn't even be alive, let alone working with humans. What else aren't we seeing?" The officer hesitated. "There's more, sir. Intelligence suggests that some of the escaped prototypes from Project EOS may have joined forces with the rebels. We don't know how many, or what they're capable of." Draven clenched his fists, frustration bubbling beneath his calm exterior. But E-Council's arrogance had created this mess, and now they were scrambling to contain it. But deep down, a sliver of doubt lingered. Had they gone too far? Was there any way to salvage what remained of their crumbling empire? Back at the rebel base, preparations were underway for the next phase of their campaign. Nova X9 worked tirelessly, hacking into Council databases to gather intelligence, while setting up secure communication channels with sympathetic factions. Jarek trained new recruits, teaching them guerrilla tactics honed during his years as a smuggler. Leora focused on developing countermeasures against the Council's advanced weaponry, using knowledge gleaned from the biological samples she analyzed earlier. Ilara, meanwhile, reached out to leaders across the galaxy, urging them to unite under a common cause. Her speeches resonated deeply, inspiring hope in those who had long felt powerless. Slowly but surely, the rebellion grew stronger, drawing support from unlikely sources, including former council loyalists disillusioned by the truth. But the turning point came when Kellyan 7 arrived. The creature emerged from hyperspace, its massive frame silhouetted against the stars. Its green eyes glowed with purpose as it approached the station, emitting a low rumble that reverberated through the structure. Ilara rushed to greet it, tears streaming down her face. "You're alive," she whispered, placing a hand gently on its silver fur. "I knew you'd make it." Kellyan 7 responded with a soft growl, its thoughts brushing against hers like a gentle breeze. Through fragmented images and emotions, it conveyed gratitude and determination. It wasn't just fighting for itself anymore. It was fighting for a future where beings like it wouldn't be feared or exploited. With Kellyan 7 by their side, the rebels launched a series of coordinated strikes against key council installations. The creature's strength and intelligence proved invaluable, allowing them to breach heavily fortified positions and disable critical systems. Alongside it fought the escaped prototypes, some scared and broken, others fierce and unyielding, all united by a shared desire for freedom. The final battle took place above the Council's capital planet, a sprawling metropolis surrounded by orbital fortresses. The rebels' fleet clashed with the Council's remaining forces in a dazzling display of lights and explosions. Lasers streaked across the void, ships collided in fiery bursts, and debris rained down like meteor showers. At the heart of the conflict, Kellyan 7 led the charge, its roar echoing through the chaos. It tore through enemy vessels with precision, disabling weapons and shields without causing unnecessary casualties. Its presence inspired courage among the rebels, turning the tide of the battle in their favor. As the dust settled, the council surrendered. Leaders who had once wielded unchecked power now stood humbled, facing justice for their crimes. Across the galaxy, celebrations erupted as people embraced a newfound sense of freedom. The era of oppression was over. Yet, amidst the jubilation, Kellyan 7 made a quiet decision. It stepped away from the festivities, gazing toward the stars with a mix of sadness and peace. Though it had found allies and earned respect, it understood that its existence would always be a reminder of humanity's darkest impulses. With a final glance at Ilara and the others, it leaped into hyperspace, disappearing into the vast unknown. Ilara watched it go, her heart heavy but hopeful. She knew Kellyan 7 hadn't truly left. It lived on in the hearts of those it had touched, a symbol of resilience and compassion. Humanity, inspired by its sacrifice and unwavering spirit, vowed to forge a brighter future, one built on understanding, unity, and trust. And somewhere out there, among the endless expanse of stars, Kellyan 7 roared one last time, a sound that carried both farewell and promise.